All right, welcome to the track guide. As usual, we're going to go into the March 5th session here. So static conditions, let's look at the weather. So we've got chance of rain for Sebring, I believe. So cloud and precipitation here. It looks like there's a chance, what about roughly about, let's see, about an hour in because we've got ×2 weather. So there's a chance of rain and then it dies off, and then there's another chance as it climbs near the end of the race. So it should be potentially fluctuating conditions. So we'll see how that goes. Sometimes it doesn't rain very hard, sometimes it does. So should be interesting. So when you want to practice, if you want to practice same conditions, come back to March 5th, view session. Everything's in static conditions, so pick your car. So you come over here, test drive, and then pick whatever car you'd like to practice with. All right, welcome to the track guide for the GR86. This is Sebring. Fastest time was a 2:23.337. However, how do I do this again? Right here. So optimal, I've got down to a 2:23.152. I believe I could probably gain a little bit on my fastest lap in the last corner, and also in the hairpin. I kind of messed it up slightly. But it was pretty decent overall, so let's go with that. So I'm going to play it full speed, and then we'll slow down and talk about it. All right, there you go. There's the 2:23.337. So let's go back and slow down a little bit. So coming up to turn one, you can see there's like angles in the wall here. So as the wall kind of starts going left, so it currently is going outwards, and then all of a sudden right there it goes left. I downshift down to 5th gear, and I start kind of turning in here. So you'll see here, pretty much right there, that wall starts kinking in. So I go just before, to be honest, just before. Nothing too aggressive on the brakes. I just want the weight transfer to the front end so I can get some grip on the front tires. Down to 5th gear, and I'm just going to slow trail brake all the way through the corner here. And once I get my front end kind of hooked up a little bit, you'll see I get off the brakes, and I'm going to try to get on the power before this orange cone that's floating in the air. You can see here, I want to try to get, yeah, now I'm getting on power, so I'm trying to get on full power so that when I come close to the cone, I can make it out of it. You want to get really close to this point here. That's pretty much your apex is this cone. If you get on throttle too aggressive too fast, you're going to wash out, so just be careful with that. You can see I was monitoring my throttle here. I didn't want to wash out too far out. All the way to the right. Next corner here, we're going to get ourselves lined up. So 3, 2, 1 cone. We're kind of going halfway between the 3 and the 2. So right about halfway, getting off the throttle. Pretty aggressive on the brakes. I do find this car, the front end doesn't seem to grip up as much as it used to before they updated it last. We've only done one track guide since, and I kind of noticed it a little bit, but this one I felt it was much more noticeable on this track. The front end doesn't have that gummy grip that it used to, so I find getting into the ABS doesn't work quite as well. In this circumstance, I get pretty heavy on the brakes, but I find in general being off the ABS kind of helps a little bit. But as wide as you want to go, I kind of turn in early for this one. So you can see I don't start turning in until after this yellow or this 1 cone. And that's kind of where I start getting off the brakes a little bit. I want to get that weight transfer to the front, and I want the grip to the front tires here. And I get pretty aggressive on the turn in and the throttle. I get right up on this curb. I want to use these curbs to upset the car so that I can turn better. Again, coming across here, I'm going to jump that next curb. So I get right up on top of it. This is all second gear, by the way. Jump right on top of it, and I want to land kind of where the curb kind of ends. So that way I open up this corner. So you can see here, I'm all the way to the right. As these curbs kind of start ending, you'll see I'm getting off throttle, a little bit of a brake just to get that rotation around. The front balance, the weight shifted to the front. And then I'm going to stay in second, and I'm going to get a late turn in for this one. I want to try to apex. Whoops. I want to try to apex right after where this kink is. I don't recommend touching the curb here, but it does help a little bit sometimes. So it's not a worse thing. I just wouldn't get too aggressive with this curb. The other two, you can get super aggressive with their curbs. This one, I don't recommend getting that aggressive with it. Just a light touch or no touch at all is probably best. But you can see here, I try to turn in kind of late, and I'm getting pretty aggressive on the throttle trying to turn my car around. I don't think I touch it here, and then I go all the way out to the right. Curves. Try to make this track as small as possible, so I'm staying to the right. Now I'm moving it up towards the cones. So 4, 3, 2, 1 cones. I'm going to go halfway. This corner I specifically go in too deep. I think I braked a little bit too close to the 3 cones. Ideally, you want to be somewhere in the between here. So we'll slow it down. Yeah. So this is kind of almost a little halfway. So maybe a little bit 3/4 of the way towards the 3. So a little bit after the 4. I found this one was too hard on the brakes. Here I am 100% on the brakes, getting into the ABS. I go down to first gear, so what I like to do is come as far to the left as possible. And then I missed it here, so I had to like try to compensate a little bit. But typically I like to try to go a little wider, and then I'll get down to first gear and use this curb here. I missed this curb, but at first gear, typically I'd be over here on the right here, a little bit of tire in the dirt over the curb. And then you can open up the corner quite well. You can even put 2 tires across the dirt. Just don't go too far across the dirt. I think there's a 1X. But if you go kind of left tires over here, you're pretty good. And you'll see here, 2 left tires over the dirt. Good to go. And away we go. Again, trying to make the track as small as possible, so I'm cutting the corners. I'm going to cut across here. Again, Sebring has nice cone markers. It's pretty easy, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think I'm going pretty aggressive to the 3 here. Let's see to make sure. There's a 3, and I'm getting off. Yeah, so off, and then onto the brakes. Again, pretty hard on the brakes. This is a quality lap, so I don't mind pushing too hard. I'm going to wait till after the cone one. I'm going down to second gear, trail braking off. Just holding that brake a little bit longer. Second gear, trying to get as close to the curb without kind of mounting it. And then power back on. So you can see here I'm getting on power before I kind of get to the apex here. It's pretty consistent with the GR86. I want to try to build the momentum up as much as possible, so pretty aggressive on the brakes. All the way out wide here. Don't go too wide. I like to stake in about half a car's width from the curb because I want to open up this next corner. And with the GR86, you can get pretty aggressive with these curbs. This one I kind of just slightly touch, but this one I find I often mount. There, just a little mount. And two ways of taking this corner. So option one, kind of going straight across here and kind of using it as a straight braking line. Or option two is you kind of go with the rubber, so you open this up and you kind of straighten it with the cones. So you run parallel to the cones, whereas currently I'm running like a kind of attacking the cones. Race situation, if you have cars on your inside, obviously use the other system. Just be aware sometimes that they might come across you in the braking zone. It is a very difficult corner, multi-class, so just be aware of you might need to back out a little bit on this one. There's a long straightaway afterwards, so you want to try to get a good exit out of it. But you can see here I'm kind of attacking the cones a little bit. There's a 3 and the 2. The 1, I'm kind of going before the 2. There's a 3, and there's a 2. I'm off the throttle, so kind of 2.5 if there was a 2.5 cone. Again, I barely hit that 100%, but I do hit it a little bit. I go down to second gear for this one. I want to open this up as much as possible, so I'm coming up right over the curb here, getting the car upset a little bit so that I can get the front end kind of going where I want to. Because if not, you just kind of understeer. So I was using this curb to help get the front end turned in. Right here, the front end kind of just grips up, and then I get back on power quite early because there's a big long straightaway afterwards. So ideally, you don't want to really touch this curb. You want to get as close as possible. And then you're trying to carry as much momentum as possible into the corner, all the way out to the curb. And then again, you're trying to cut this track out. It's trying to take as much kilometers or miles out of it as possible. So you're just trying to cut it again, and then you're lined up with these cones again. Again, I think it's around 2.5. Yeah, a little bit closer to the 2, so maybe 2.25. I don't get aggressive on the brakes with this one. I just kind of get around the 75, 80% mark. It's high speed, down to third gear. What I'd like to do is put my tires on the inside of this curb. I miss it just a little bit on this one, but typically what I do is kind of have a little bit of overhang so that I get my right tires kind of over this and use this kind of serrated edge to pull my car to the right. And then that typically gets me a little bit further to the right than I did here, and then it opens up the following corner. So if you go too deep into this corner, you end up too far to the left, and then you're kind of compromised on this next one. Whereas if you slow up a little extra, you'll come to the right here, and then you can open up the rest of the corners. So you'll see here, I'm trying to kind of have to steer aggressive to try to stay as far right as possible. So there's definitely some speed scrub. And you can see here, I'm trying to be about a car's width away from the curb, and then I come and be super aggressive over this curb. So I'll jump it all the way over to the left here, way off the track, but there is no off track out here, at least not this far. Just kind of hovering on the brake a little bit, trying to get that weight shifted forward to grip up the front tires. And then I'm going to turn in and just kind of hold nothing, right? So there's no brake, no throttle for a long time because I'm just trying to carry as much momentum as possible while also not getting too aggressive on the power because otherwise I'll just end up washing out. So I start getting on power before the apex of the corner. because there's a big long straightaway. So a lot of the times when there's a big long straightaway after a corner, I try to aim to be on throttle early before the apex. That way I carry a lot of momentum out of the corner with this car. Ideally, you want to try to put your two right tires just slightly over the edge, right about here. So you can see where the rubber is. I'd like to try to get over a little bit. I did it pretty well here, but I didn't quite get it. I think I had to kind of adjust my throttle a little bit because I went too aggressive right there, and then I had to back out a little bit and then up again. So one thing to note is, yeah, you have to play with your throttle a little bit there, but and then you go all the way wide. You can pretty much touch dirt here and then come back on track without any X. Big long straightaway. Again, you're going to look at the cones here. This one you can go, I believe, probably even deeper than I did here. I'm choosing to go between the 2 and the 1, but I'm pretty sure you could probably push this a little bit. I kind of felt it was nice for exit to do it the way I was doing. So where the 2 cone is, I start turning in. Again, there's two kind of ways to take this corner. You could really attack the entry here. You can go right up to the wall, then out wide, and then kind of turn in. What I like doing is kind of a big sweep in motion. So not too hard on the brakes. I'm coming out nice and wide past this white line. As the white line kind of starts turning in more, I do the same thing. Lots of coasting. I'm just letting the car be nice and stable. And then I'm going to try to aim to be close to the wall at the first apex of this corner, because I find there's 2 apexes to this one and they're right one after the other. So I'm getting on power, nothing too aggressive at first. I believe this is pretty much the first apex here, and then you kind of bump off, and then the second one is on this edge here. I don't think you need to get too close to the inside here. I think it's better to kind of wash out and try to carry as much speed as possible, but definitely hitting this first one is pretty important. And you can see here I'm just monitoring my throttle, and once I know I can hit this one, I'm going full throttle and I'm just going to wash out without trying to scrub too much speed. I don't want to steer too far to the right because I don't want to scrub too much speed. So I'm just trying to monitor how my steering is so that I can make sure I don't hit the wall and I can carry as much speed as possible. So that's the 223.3. The next lap I did was a fuel kind of save lap. I'm going to play it and we'll talk about it a little bit, and we'll play it with a little bit of strategy here. So you'll see here, often in this lap, I'm lifting off the throttle much earlier than before. So before I was kind of right where this crux of the corner is. You can see here I'm way early. A little bit of braking, lots of coasting, a little bit of trail braking here, same as usual. Right where the apex is. What I like doing with this specifically is what it helps is keep your car stable. So typically when you're doing this, you can get on throttle earlier in the corner and it's much more stable. And also you can let cars by. So obviously corner 1 is going to be a huge overtaking opportunity. Lots of GR or the GT4s or BMW M2s are going to have lots of speed. So they will definitely try to overtake you on the inside here. So I find a nice lift and coast. Saves me a little fuel. Lets a couple cars go by. Then I turn in, get back on power, no problem. Same with this corner. I think we were getting close to the 2 cone here. If you've got multiple cars coming at you, this one's a little bit more difficult because it is turning a little bit. So you just have to be a little bit more aware of what a car coming might do. But here, you can see here, I lift way before the 3 cone. Lots of lift and coast. Now I can brake pretty close to the 2. Hopefully you're not in a too wide situation through these corners. It is doable. It is quite fun actually, but it is, yeah, it's a little bit sketchy as well if you're with somebody who's not quite comfortable. If you've practiced with these cars going too wide, it's actually pretty fun. But it is also, yeah, if somebody's doesn't have the experience, it can be a little bit daunting as well. Again, we're jumping these curbs, jumping the curbs, late apex, all the way down the straightaway here. Obviously, this is going to be a big overtaking corner as well. Multiple cars are going to come flying down the inside if they can before the braking zone. In this situation, I'm going to lift and coast fairly early. Again, boop, lift off. I was braking halfway here. We can brake pretty much the same thing when you do a nice big lift and coast. I think this corner I took a little bit better. You'll see here some braking, braking, braking. I'm going to turn in. I'm going to hit the apex way better here because I'm doing a lot of lift and coast. So you can see here, 2 tires just over the curb in the dirt like I talked about earlier. And then out the corner, across the dirt. So you can see what I mean by lifting and coasting. It stabilizes your car better. You can hit your apexes way better. And you save a little bit of fuel. Again, a big straightaway, you're going to have cars flying down the inside. So you're going to be getting overtaken quite a bit in the GR86 for this race. But it is a wide open track, so there's lots of ways to do that safely. Again, you can do a nice big lift here. I was braking around the 2 mark. I'm lifting before the 4, just coasting, coasting, coasting. Now I'm going to start getting on the brakes. I don't need to get into the ABS. Oh, I do a little bit. Down to second gear. Hitting that apex. Get on the throttle. Boop, let's go. Not too wide. Come across, cut the curb. Cut the curb again. Again here, this is one of the more difficult passing opportunities, but faster cars are definitely going to want to pass you. So you got 2 options. One, stay to the right and defend the inside, or stay to the left, lift early. If you're going to stay to the left here, I really suggest you lift early, let the cars go by your inside, and then kind of cut in behind them. If you're coming over here to the right defending because you don't think that they have enough space, just be aware that you might need to leave space to the left in case they do try to go for something. And then also don't try to lift and coast. So if you're going to stick to the right, really try to attack the corner a little bit and leave space to your left. That would be the wisest situation. Otherwise, if you want to play it nice and safe, stick to your left, wait till all the cars kind of pass, and then just tuck in behind them. But you'll see here, I'm lifting and coasting before these cones. Lift and coast, and then a 2 cone. Again, down to second gear. Come real close to this curb here. Pop, and off we go. Cutting the corner as much as we can. Cutting it again. And we were on the brakes around the 2 cone. You'll see here another big lift and coast. Way before the cones, I'm off the throttle. Allow a couple cars to go by and then kind of tuck in behind them. Down to third gear like I did before. I believe this one I get it better because again I'm stabilizing the platform. So you can see how easy it is to stabilize the platform when you do a bit of lift and coast. You can really nail your apexes a lot better. You'll see here I ride this curb like I was saying on my hot lap that I wanted to do but couldn't quite get. And you'll see here, nice open in for this corner here, all the way across. Really well open the track. And then I'm going to come back, touch the curb, and off we go. Same with this corner coming up. This is a really good opportunity to let cars by. They're going to all want to go over to the inside and pass. So I think we were pushing it around the 2 or the 1 in a qualifying sim. So I just lift earlier. Coasting, coasting, coasting. Let all the cars kind of go by on the inside, nice and wide. Once they're passed, then I kind of tuck in behind them. If they're not passed, you can still stay out wide. It's pretty safe out there. I wouldn't go too much further than midway. You can see where the rubber line is. Stick to the outside of the rubber line. But if you start going out too far, it starts kind of inducing some understeer, and you might actually end up in the wall. But yeah, in this scenario, I tucked in behind virtual people, and I still hit my apex and still on throttle. So I didn't lose too much time. And you can see with a lot of lift and coast, I managed a 224.2 with my fastest lap being a 223.3 and my optimal being a 223.1. So a pretty similar kind of pace. I'm losing almost a second with some lift and coast. So that gives you guys a good idea. If you're struggling with how I do my quali lap and you're trying to push that like that, I really recommend doing some lift and coast. And that gives you uh, a good idea is if you're gaining time with lift and coast, it's because you're pushing your brake in too late. And often what people do is they try to gain time by braking later and later and later. And oftentimes that's the wrong approach. So do your laps, figure out what it is you're doing, and then try a bit of lift and coast. If all of a sudden you start gaining time, well, you're braking too late. So just take note of that and then try to be conscious of it and lifting and coasting in the specific corners that you might be having troubles with. And then eventually it'll come over time where you'll kind of gain that experience of which corners you should be able to do what. Hopefully you enjoyed the track guide. I'm going to do one more outside lap here, far chase, so you guys can get a good idea of what I'm doing from the outside. And then that'll be it for the track guide. And there you go, 223.337. That's the far chase view. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and good luck for the race.